Pay for play has been a big issue for colleges and universities alike. And this week, Commissioner of the Big Ten Conference, Jim Delaney, spoke out on the issue. Quote, maybe in football and basketball, it would work better if more kids had a chance to go directly into the professional ranks. If they're not comfortable and want to monetize, let the minor leagues flourish. Train at IMG. Get agents to invest in your body. Get agents to invest in your likeness and establish it on your own. But don't come here and say, we want to be paid $25,000 or $50,000. Go to the D League and get it. Go to the NBA and get it. Go to the NFL and get it. Don't ask us what we've been doing. All right, I hear you. We welcome in our college analyst, Robert Smith. Welcome to the desk.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Good to be back.
Agree with Delaney or not?
I do agree with him in the sense that players should be allowed to turn pro. I think it's an arbitrary rule, especially when you start talking about in the NFL, your high school class has to be out 3 years. I mean, theoretically, a guy could graduate early and could be playing in the pros at age 19. In the NBA, I know that the rules changed. They used to allow them to come straight out of high school, and now what? It's 1 year. It's a silly rule. The thing is, I think the context in which he said it is kind of messed up. He's basically saying, okay, if you guys want to do this, go ahead and do it. You know, we're helping you develop your likeness. Of course, you don't see them selling jerseys without the names on the back for the colleges, and they have no problem making that money. But he's saying, we don't want you making that money. And the reason is because it takes away from the money that we want to use for other things. We want to increase our salaries. We want to pay the coaches more. You know, we want to build buildings on campus. We want to do all this stuff, but we don't want you guys to get that money. Here's the thing for me. The argument begins and ends here. If you're old enough to decide, I want to join the Army and potentially go die for your country,
thank you.
You should have the right to say you are an adult. You can do everything but drink and rent a car on your own at that point. You should be able to say, I'm ready to try and turn pro.
I agree.
Stephen A., your take.
Well, as usual, Robert is right on the money. I agree with him 1,000%, particularly when he alludes to the context in which Jim Delaney is uttering what he's uttering, spewing that nonsense out of his mouth, because it comes across as incredibly dismissive of the very student athletes they're exploiting and profiting off of. And that's really what this comes down to. I do appreciate the fact that he's a proponent of youngsters getting paid. But at the same time, this very, very last line that he utters is incredibly telling. Quote, we want to be paid. Don't come to us. Don't come here and say we want to be paid. Go to the D League and get it. Go to the NBA and get it. Don't ask us what we've been doing. No, we have a right to ask what you've been doing, because what you've been doing is exploiting the student athlete, profiting off of them, and then standing up and acting as if you are, you know, just aghast and annoyed at the notion that they should earn as well. And that's really very, very hypocritical, and it's problematic, particularly when you consider not just the money in college football from the games themselves, but the television contracts, the conference contracts with the television networks, etc. Every time we turn around, we see these kids, these schools, these institutions, these conferences getting paid. And then you want to sit there and act like it is just reprehensible to even entertain the notion that individuals, kids, the very student athletes that you're exploiting, find some way to get paid themselves. It really takes me back to Greg Anthony, Skip, and Robert. Greg Anthony, my former colleague on NBA Countdown, who did an outstanding job for us. He's a friend. I remember when he was at UNLV, and he talked to me about giving up his scholarship. He was playing for Jerry Tarkanian with Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon, and those boys. They won a national championship, you know, while they were there. And he was talking about how he forfeited his scholarship because they were saying you're a student athlete, you're under scholarship, you can't do X, Y, and Z. Well, Greg Anthony, a staunch Republican, a capitalist who's incredibly proud to be a capitalist, sat there and said whether it be with T-shirts or anything like that, he could make money on his own, and the money he would generate, the revenue he would generate for himself, obviously was worth more than a scholarship, because a scholarship impeded his ability to make dollars, whereas by forfeiting the scholarship, he could have his own T-shirt business and beyond, and he could make money that way, and it could pay for his college education, and that's what he ended up doing. My point is, he should not have had to do that in order to be able, if you're innovative enough to start your own business and make money in a very legal manner, what's wrong with doing that while being on a basketball scholarship? To me, it makes no sense, but that's the decision he had to make, and it's a crying shame that he had to make it, guys.
I hear you, Stephen A. And back to Robert. I appreciate your perspective because you played college football at a very high level and you played pro football at a very high level, but all along the trail,
yes, he did.
You were very passionate in your involvement with NFL Players Association issues, and you continue to be. So I appreciate your passion for this issue because I have a burning passion for this issue and I have had one for going on 30 years in this business. What we're talking about here is just flat out unconstitutional, and I cannot for the life of me understand how it has survived in court. Appeal upon appeal gets rejected and rejected, and somehow, and let's lay the blame where it belongs here, the blame lies with the NFL and the NBA because they're the ones who have to first decide. It's not the NCAA. The NCAA is complicit here because they like what's happening. But, right, it has to start with the league.
Well, I think, first of all, with the players, I think it starts with the Players Association, quite honestly, because you basically, as the negotiating body for those players and for future players, you have to give up that right.
Yeah.
And I could not agree with you. This is 100% a constitutional issue.
Yeah.
You become 18 years of age, you should be able to apply to any job you want.